Hello class, today I will be talking about the Elkins Act of 1903. All of my information came from the textbook, study.com, and theodoreRooseveltCenter.org. Now before we dive right into what the Elkins Act is, we need to talk about the background information on what led up to this act being made. So during Theodore Roosevelt's second election, he wanted to focus on progressive issues through his own program called the Square Deal. One of the issues that he wanted to focus on was railroad rates. Now, you may be wondering, is that the rates for transportation, taking the train on railroads? No, we're talking about the shipping rates. So, railroads would abuse the shipping rates through something called rebates. Now, rebates were refunds to businesses which shipped large quantities on railroads. Think of rebates as a reduction in prices. So businesses were able to pay a large amount of money to have their large quantities of goods shipped, and the railroads would then pay them back a quantity of that money. So they were only paying like a little bit in retrospect. Basically, rebates were offered to shippers that needed to move more goods. This prioritized bigger businesses and corporations over smaller ones. The larger quantities you were able to ship, the lower shipping rates you had to pay in the long run. The railroad companies were more focused on the desire of profits above all else. So this really hurt smaller companies because they weren't able to pay those larger prices up front. Even though they would get the money back, they were just too poor to have that money up front. Rebates basically allowed big businesses to outpay the poor people for better deals. Now, the public was getting tired of this rate discrimination and ended up wanting to get the government involved. Now, the railroads did not want that to happen because they benefited from the government not being involved or having a say in shipping rates. When the government's not involved, they're able to do whatever they want and make as much money as they can. But the public was tired of this and spoke up really quickly on how fair it was. And so they started to get the government involved. Now, what exactly is the Elkins Act that I mentioned in the beginning of the video? So the Elkins Act was introduced by Senator Stephen B. Elkins of West Virginia. It started off as a piece of legislation meant to more closely regulate railroad companies, which were famous for high rates. The bill would profit railroads from giving rebates to businesses to ship larger quantities of goods to take away the power from those businesses to artificially lower shipping rates. The bill was introduced in 1902 and was named after Senator Stephen B. Elkins and was called the Elkins Act of 1903. It was then passed to the House and signed by President Theodore Roosevelt in 1903. The passing of the Elkins Act strengthened the position of the Interstate Commerce Commission to regulate railroad prices. Thank you for listening to my talk of the Elkins Act. I hope you were able to learn something, at least something about rebates, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.